Hi there, this is Ron Rogers, and this is the adventures, aviation adventures with Captain Ron. Aviation adventures with Captain Ron. I got to remember my own brand new channel name here, which hopefully will stay. We'll see. It depends on if I get good, ideas from people. But anyway, okay, back to the subject matter. I've got a little secret to tell you about GAMI. Now, those of you who are familiar with aviation probably know it, and this is a picture of the booth up at Oshkosh. And GAMI, they stand for General Aviation Modifications Incorporated. You might know them from working on an alternate avgas type fuel, getting the let out sort of thing. But their main history is these injectors which balance the fuel to an engine. And I've had these in both of my 310s. And I need to tell you about one guy there at GAMI. Now, let me tell you right off. I got this picture walking around the one of the big buildings there, and to see these people sitting there, the GAMI people sitting there, not talking to anybody, was extremely rare. They're always crowded, and it's hard to usually get to talk to them. And of course, the success of a product depends with their people. And I want to tell you about one guy here, John Paul. I want to talk about him. And I probably should have made this video 20 years ago, but I didn't. I was worried basically about it might have some bad repercussions. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. But basically, okay, so my first foray into GAMI was with my 310Q model. Okay, I have 12 cylinders, 24 spark plugs, and it has a total of 12, obviously, GAMI injectors. You need one per engine. Okay, well, what you do is when you say you want to buy these, and they're, yeah, I forget the exact cost. It was over $1,000. The main thing is the STC, because these have to be approved for all the engines, and that's a big governmental process, and that's expensive. Okay, well, you get the GAMI injectors, and I talked to John Paul quite a bit. You get the GAMI injectors, then you run the lean test, and you see, well, this isn't quite right. You send them the data and say, yeah, we'll send you these. Okay, so they send you on, they send you the set on out, and eventually with a lot of emails and stuff, you get the thing kind of where it's in a nice. Usually they're all within half a gallon. In this airplane, I ran at Lena Peak for 15 years. I own it for 15 years. I ran at Lena Peak, and for all those people who don't like Lena Peak, it ran beautifully. I replaced 2 cylinders, and that was within about the first 2 years, and that was most likely from the person who operated previously, but I had great luck with it. But started out not so good, let's put it that way. And John Paul, the guy with the arrow there, was very instrumental in this. See what happened. I got the GAMI injectors. They come in a little box. They're not terribly large because injectors aren't terribly big. And in the process of going out to the airport, I put these on this little bench near the front door, which is also a spot where we put boxes to be recycled. Well, this was the day of recycling, and I had them setting there, and it's like, okay, my wife took out the trash, and she didn't realize that this was not an empty box, and it was my fault for setting them, near all this other stuff. And she took them out and put them in the trash, and the trash had gone, and this $1,000 worth of GAMI injectors were gone. And I was absolutely sick. I go, oh no, I've got to buy another set, and they were $1,000 to $2,000. The GAMI injectors, the injectors themselves aren't terribly expensive. Like anything in aviation, they're not cheap, but they're not terribly expensive. And I called up John Paul, and I go, oh man, I am just sick. My wife accidentally threw these away. Without hesitation, without coercion, without anything, John Paul said, that's all right, I'll send you out another set. I'm going, you're kidding. He sent them out free of charge. And one of the reasons I didn't want to say anything about this was I didn't want people to take advantage of him, because somebody that nice, but a company is based on the reputation. I'll tell you about an incident I had, well, not an incident, an involvement with John Paul at the latest EAA AirVenture 2025, which kind of reiterated that I just wanted to tell you what a good guy this is, and it's the people that make the company. They got a lot of smart people, but I'll tell you that story in just a second here. And my Q model didn't have known icing, and I'd been shot down on trips. The FAA likes to put on this blanket icing thing, and legally you can get in a lot of trouble. So I wanted to have an airplane that was certified for known icing, and I loved the 310. I started looking at 421s and stuff, and that would have been great, but it would have been very expensive, and I wouldn't have had enough extra pennies left over to buy the Great Lakes eventually. But I love the 310, and those of you that have followed the channel and see how I talk about it, and the interior with the two G500s, the GTN 650, 750, the JPI 790, and all this stuff. I mean, it's just beautifully equipped. The airplane looks beautiful, and it's just a pleasure to fly. But okay, now the rest of the story, with apologies to Paul Harvey there. So I've got my Great Lakes. Well, most of the flying I do in my Great Lakes is either patterns or aerobatics. I don't spend much time going cross country, and it runs fairly well Lena Peak, except it's not terribly balanced. There's a good split in the EGTs. It's reasonable enough that I can still run there and be safe, and I'm below 65% power most of the time, and I get a good cruise out of it because I don't want to beat myself to death with the wind going cross country, and you like to see the terrain. So it works fine. But I decided, okay, I'm going to I've had the airplane for 3 years now, and well, maybe I want GAMI injectors on it. I don't know, do I? So I go to the booth. Previously, there were more people there, but John Paul is talking to somebody. So I talked to one of the other people who was more of a salesman, and I said, well, here's my situation. Would GAMI injectors be a benefit for me? And the guy, didn't try to sell me like, some used car salesman or go, when can we put you in GAMI injectors today sort of thing. He said, you need to talk to John Paul about that. So that was very nice. He referred me to the technical guy, and that's him right there. And so I said to John Paul, I said, well, would GAMI injectors be good for this? And of course, they will balance out the engine. It'll probably operate a little bit better, and definitely on cross country, you would see, improvement, especially running Lena Peak. It would work a little bit better, and he basically said to me when I told him what I did, he says, well, you don't fly cross country that much. And he said, it's going to take you a long time to offset the cost of GAMI injectors in fuel. It's about $1,000. Well, the little bit you will save by running a little bit better Lena Peak with the GAMI injectors will probably exceed the lifetime of when I've been flying this. So, okay, not only was he a fantastic good guy on sending me the injectors when they got put in the trash accidentally, he also was very honest with me and essentially talked me out of buying his product. Now, that's a company that has integrity, honesty, and I will deal with forever because they're just great people, honest people, and down to earth. They're not trying to sell you a bill of goods, and you go to Oshkosh and there are plenty of people who try to do that. So I just had to finally say, without hitting the microphone, that I really appreciate this company. And like I said, I was a little hesitant to tell about how nicely it treated me. I don't want people to take advantage of them like that. But, I was just very impressed. So, hey, thanks for watching.